As Boston residents try to heal from this latest attack, many are wondering how to maintain a sense of normalcy during these troubling times.
Well, our next guest says it is important to reclaim your life when the country experiences events like these. And here to explain is retired Secret Service agent Scott Alswang. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And thank you for being here, Scott. And I have to ask you this first question, that you joined the Secret Service in 1981.
83, actually.
83?
Yes,
okay, I was giving you some more time in there.
Yeah.
It was right after the assassinate that John Hinckley tried to assassinate President Ronald Reagan. Tell us about that experience.
Well, I wasn't there, but that was the reason that myself and a number of other people were, well, motivated to try to aspire to be a Secret Service agent. But after that happened, there was a hiring, and a number of extra agents were hired to protect the president and do the other responsibilities that we were charged with, counterfeit money and credit card fraud, things like that. But we learn at every different incident. We learn things about protocol, about procedures, and how to do things better.
Scott, talk about Boston. We see that this manhunt has pretty much brought Boston to a virtual standstill as they look for the last of the two suspects that the FBI have identified in connection to this race. Restricted airspace in a 3-mile radius over Boston. They shut down the commuter railways, shut down the Amtrak train from Providence, Rhode Island to Boston. They asked businesses to close for sporting events, for entertainment events, for things that we all take for granted, going to the movies, things like that. How does security now change? What do businesses do to reassure people that, one, it's safe for them to come out once law enforcement lifts that lockdown? How do you do that?
I think that the 24/7 news cycle has made people more aware of what's happened throughout the country. Has incidents of like Aurora and those type of mass shootings, have they increased? I'm not sure. Obviously, it's reported and it's terrible. Boston's terrible. Today's the 18th anniversary of the bombing of the Oklahoma City Federal Building. I lost 6 colleagues in that bombing. Technology has helped. 9/11, post 9/11 security procedures have helped. And I think the general public has been more aware and more alert. And the See Something, Say Something campaign has helped people to be more aware. It doesn't cost any money in this city to call, New York City, to call 311 or 911, wherever you are. The technology that's in place, the video cameras and Twitter and social media have really helped law enforcement more than they've hindered it. This is a precaution. These guys were armed. They had bomb equipment. They're just trying to keep the community safe.
But we saw after 9/11, for example, the Emmy Awards were scheduled to take place that week. They were postponed. In fact, they were postponed twice, because the second time that they were supposed to take place is when the invasion into Afghanistan occurred. I believe it was the Latin Grammy Awards that actually never took place until quite some time later. If you have an event that is high profile, lots of celebrities, what is the expected response? Is it simply to postpone, or all of the infrastructure money that has been put into having these events take place in the first place force organizers to make it go forward but take different security precautions?
The saying goes, the show must go on. But you have to be cognizant of the intelligence that's out there. For instance, the Secret Service made a decision to bring President Obama in for the funeral. Was part of that prompted by just doing the right thing? Yes, but we obviously, the agents and the advance team felt confident that they could control his environment and provide safety. These guys were still out there, presumably armed and dangerous, but there's enough security protocols in place that even a lot of these large events in stadiums and arenas, people can go in, be cognizant of what's going on, be vigilant, but be prepared. Just don't overthink it, but just realize where you would go if something would happen.
Well, tell us about some of the security measures that are going to take place both now, that are already going, more cameras, more guards on the ground, more police officers, as well as in the future. How long can we expect, the FBI, the police to be enforced higher with all the security that's going on, not only in Boston, but around the country?
There's always vigilance. There's always attention to detail. Incidents like this ramp things up for a while. unfortunately, people have short memories and things start to settle down, and it's only spiked when things like this happen. I hate to say that people become immune to a lot of this. I'm in the security business in the private sector now. When things like this happen, there's a temporary ramp up. We try to train our people so that they do a great job every day of the year. And we try to train the employees of the places that we secure and try to train the protectees, the celebrities that we protect, to recognize certain things. A lot of them think that everybody just adores them, and they don't realize that there's some negativity out there, that emotionally disturbed people have fixation on them, and some in a bad way.
And we certainly saw that this week, particularly with the arrest of the woman who threw a razor filled device at Hugh Jackman.
Right.
You know, if you are securing a high-profile individual, how do you caution them so that they are still able to interact with their fans, the people that really help sustain their popularity, but at the same time make them feel safe, and at the same time make sure other individuals don't cross that fine line?
Well, you take the example we brought up, the attempted assassination of President Reagan. You could be assured after he was shot and recovered, he listened to everything his security had to say.
I bet.
He's like, boys, whatever you want. And, you know, wearing a bulletproof vest, going in back entrances, that type of thing. There, you know, in our free society, politicians and celebrities need that access, need that touchy-feely kind of atmosphere, but we do it in a protective way. We clear the guests that are going to be there. The Broadway shows in New York City, there are certain protocols in place. There's a lot of video. There's a lot of, I don't want to call it profiling, but if you see somebody in the summer wearing a winter jacket, you're going to be suspicious of that person. Somebody should report it to that security that's in place.
Well, what advice would you give to some of those celebrities or even everyday people to go through some of these horrible events or attacks to them to try to get back to normal? Because it seems like everything will make you jump, or, you know, you're always turning your shoulder.
I think the biggest piece of advice I'd give any celebrity, don't drive a car. Have someone drive your car. I know they like that freedom, but it seems, never mind terrorism or assault attempts on them. The biggest trouble that we see the celebrities get involved with is when they drive their own car, whether it's a DWI or a fender bender or a motor vehicle dispute. So be smart, utilize security to your advantage. And it's not going to be all-encompassing. It's not going to keep them away from their fans. It's just going to be helping them learn to be proactive rather than reactive.
Well, what about normal people, everyday people who have, like the Boston people who have gone through this type of attack, or someone who's just robbed on the subway? What can they do to get their normalcy back, to just feel safe again?
Well, you can't give in. You got to think that there's more good people than bad people, that the karma is going to overcome the negativity. It's a big city. There's crime in this city. Some of it is planned, and some of it just is where you are. It's fate. It's happenstance. Know where you are. Know an escape route out. They talk a lot about active shooters, and God forbid an active shooting incident occurs. You got to make a decision: stay or run or fight. And sometimes it's a tough decision to make.
So much focus, understandably, has been put on Boston. But there's a lot of, whether you want to call them celebrity events, outdoor events, entertainment events that people go to that could potentially be the target of someone trying to make a statement. That being said, particularly this weekend, when people are debating whether they're in Idaho or Indiana or Alabama, wherever, they're not necessarily in Massachusetts, but they've been watching this coverage all week, as most of us have been. How do they negotiate their decision as to whether they're going to go to that concert that they bought tickets to a while ago, or you know, maybe it's another marathon in their local community? What are the questions that you think they should be asking of the organizers of the event so that they can feel safe and secure?
Well, I think we're a litigious society, and one thing that we've seen as far as event security goes, a lot of these corporations, they're fully insured and they don't want any issues. So they're pretty cooperative when it comes to security arrangements prior to the event. So whether it's magnetometers, whether it's canine searches, whether it's additional lighting for the exit of the event, and emergency escape routes if there was a fire, and fire suppression systems and fire safety. There's a lot of things that have been improved since 9/11. Every event unfortunately, every bad event you learn something from.
So what should people be on the lookout for? They don't want to always have crime and bombs in their head, but what should we be on the lookout for? On the subways here in New York, they always say, if you see something, say something. So what should we be looking for?
Anything out of the ordinary, suspicious packages, obviously, again, tell someone right away. Don't let someone else be the decision maker on that. It can't hurt to make the call, to call a cop, to call a MTA person if you're in New York City. Always be cognizant of your surroundings. Try to protect yourself. If something does happen, if the herd's going one way, that might not necessarily be the way to go. So try to, it's a quick decision, but it may save your life if you decide, hey, I got to run and hide, or I got to stay and cover in place.
And one of the messages that we often heard following the 9/11 attacks was this message to get the community to go back out there, whether it was telling American consumers to go out and start shopping or go out and start flying again. They wanted people to resume those normal aspects of life. And I guess the answer here is to do as you normally would do, but just simply be more aware of what you're doing.
Exactly. The odds of you getting in a car accident are probably, sadly, more so than a terrorist incident or an active shooter or even being a victim of a crime, depending obviously on the geographical area that you're in. But life goes on. We've got to be strong. We've got to be persevere in light of what happened, and law enforcement's doing a great job on this particular case.
And before we go, we only have like 30 seconds left. Tell us, who are some of the people you've personally protected?
Well, I helped protect every president from Ronald Reagan to George W. Bush, and most of the heads of state that came in to visit the U.S. And in my post-Secret Service career, a lot of the top entertainers of the world.
Wow.
Well, we thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All right, you're watching Arise Entertainment 360.